Okay, awesome. 3, 2, 1. Welcome to another episode of Digital Voices. My name is Bo Tiffany. We talk about what's on our hearts, what's on our minds, get to know one another, and tell our individual stories. Today, my special guest is Mr. DJ D, otherwise known as a fucking awesome guy. I recently met DJ D.
DJ G3.
G3? Okay, my bad on that.
That's all good.
We literally just kind of met just within the last few days on an official capacity. Have been Facebook friends for a little bit longer. You invited me to Discord and kind of got me interested enough to set up my own. So yeah, here I am.
Gotcha. Yeah, that's great, man. Discord is a very unique application. It does a lot of work there. So
yeah, well, I'm still really green in terms of this software. I know a lot of what it does because there's similar things in other software that I'm familiar with. I have an IT background, so I can pick up most things pretty quickly. But I do like the way that it's laid out, and I do like the way that you can spread your information and kind of put everything into one spot so that listeners who visit can participate in getting A, more information, and B, even possibly be a part of the podcast. So that's pretty awesome.
Yeah, that's what, when I first came up with the idea for the radio station, the DJ G3 radio station, radio and podcast, the initial thing was to get, because we were in COVID, and so everyone was social distancing, everyone was stuck at home, and I was like, well, how can I do this and possibly, get people to be in a group together? And we originally started off with Zoom, which I'm sure you're familiar with. And Zoom was all right. The problem with Zoom and a lot of the other ones, nothing against them, they worked out for what I needed them for, but they're more a phone call type of deal where there's an open connection. You're making a contact with someone, they're involved in something, and that's where you lose your connection at. Whereas right now, me and you are hanging out in a group together. You see, there isn't a call. You didn't connect to me, so meaning that I can't disconnect from you. We're in what I want to say, we're in a neutral zone within the internet.
Right, that's a good way to put it.
You know what I mean? So, yeah, I'd be glad to help you with it and show you some more stuff with it. I learned it because I have a gaming clan called League Logic, and we play Rocket League, and this is where I learned it from gaming. So,
do me a favor real quick. I think the gate on your microphone is clipping you so that I'm having a tough time on my end. You keep breaking off.
Yeah, I kept on hearing that as well. Let me see what my sound is out here. You want to check my sound?
So how do I do that on Discord for you?
Right, if you go on to my name and just left click on it.
Okay.
Or right click. Okay, you should right click and it should show you a volume thing there.
All right.
Yeah, and that might be up too loud.
No, that's fine. I'll just dial in a little bit there. I didn't know I could do that because I can't do that, obviously, on my board with this program. They don't interface in that way.
Yep. So you can control you as the owner of this server. You can pretty much manipulate anything you want.
Okay. Nice.
You just got to know how to manipulate it. Yeah, you can pretty much do anything. Which, like I said, I'd be glad to show you. It's pretty dynamic.
Yeah.
We use it for battling. So Rocket League is a 3-on-3, 2-on-2, 1v1 game. Most people that play at the tournament league level is 3-on-3. So for our members to practice our A team against our B team, they got to be on different waves so they can't hear each other. So in here, I can make my Elite Knight team and then my Elite Kings team. So those guys they're playing the same game, but they're not hearing each other talk. As when we're usually playing in a room, you can hear each other call out plays. So in here, it's like how you can separate it. It's all types of stuff, man. It's pretty much anything you need to use it for, you can make it happen.
Is there a reason that it sounds kind of like you're in a echoey cave? Is that your side?
That could be just my room where I'm at.
Okay.
Yeah, that could be my room. And that's what everyone else says. I don't know what I sound like to you guys in here.
Sure.
But when I'm recording on my studio, I sound 100%.
Nice.
So I don't sound that way to you guys.
How do I sound? How do I sound coming through to you?
You sound fine. You sound more crisp and more whole, but you don't have that type of voice. You know, you have a very deep voice as it. So you sound very clean coming through.
Nice.
But I assume you have an actual microphone and you're hooked up correct.
Right. Yep.
So that's kind of some of the bare ends. But I'm not sure why I'm clipping. Usually,
it was more so when your volume was down. Now that I punched you up, I think it might be within the program.
Yeah. Okay. You can also speed up the amount of kilobytes you get on here. So it starts off with just like the regular speed.
Yeah.
And it jumps up to 156, and then 256, and then 356.
Okay.
We already boosted my server, so we're at 256.
Nice.
So maybe that could be something different too. It's just the speed of this thing.
Sure.
It's alive. I can't explain to you. It's alive and remember stuff. It pushes out info. So you can slow it down, meaning that if you get too much interaction out here, you can just go in there and press cool down, which will kind of slow it from doing its work. So
cool. Well,
a lot of things.
Yeah, I'm going to bookmark this as of here, and I'm actually going to start interviewing now. So let me ask you, you are from Wisconsin originally.
That's right.
Where'd you grow up?
I grew up in Oshkosh, Wisconsin.
Okay.
I was born in New York. I was born in Long Island, New York, but I came to Oshkosh when I was about 3.
Okay.
And grew up in Oshkosh. I'm not sure if you're familiar with that area.
When did you move there?
About 84.
Whole family move or just you?
Me and my older brother at the time and my mom.
Okay.
And then so we moved from East Hampton, New York to Oshkosh, Wisconsin.
What brought you out this way? Just family or circumstances?
My mom she had met my brother and sister's dad out in the East Coast. He was into basketball, and my family's big into basketball out there. So he was at one of the practices. He knows the people there. He was there a lot. Next thing you know, he's like, I got family there. They were together. Let's go back to Wisconsin. My mom had been living in New York her whole life, or majority of it at the time. So she's like, hey, let's go. And
what part of New York?
Well, as far as I know, the Hamptons, at least the Hamptons part, that's where my dad is, where my dad's from.
Nice.
And my grandma and auntie, they're all from out there as well. My understanding, my uncle moved out there. I guess whatever generation moved out there for cleaning houses, that was a big thing out on Long Island. So if you were from down south or anywhere, to open up a business out there doing cleaning mansions and stuff was a huge thing in the early, the 70s on up, probably 60s on up. So that's how we kind of migrated out there. And then you got me. Here I am.
Yeah. So how old were you when you actually made the commute then?
I was 4. I was like 3 or 4.
Oh, right on. So you don't much remember. Gotcha.
No, I know everything about Wisconsin. I grew up in, like I said, I got for elementary school on up. So
nice. What was it like growing up out in Oshkosh?
It was amazing actually. The early '80s time, so there wasn't a lot of crime there. It's basically no crime, just a regular suburb.
Yeah.
The schools and stuff like that were taken care of. The area was taken care of. It was a really nice place at that time.
Has it changed a lot since then?
Oh, absolutely. It's a totally different place. Everyone migrates from the south. So, people from Milwaukee, from Chicago, started migrating north, and the drugs and stuff like that. Yeah. So that place at one point in time, when I was younger, 6 or 7, I was riding my bike to the park to go fishing and stuff. I could ride my bike, 3 or 4 away, no problem. Nowadays, that's not the most feasible thing to do.
Hey, do me one favor. Sorry to interrupt you. Could you just
No problem.
get that microphone just a little bit closer to you, if you would?
Want me to get louder a little bit?
I don't know. It sounds like maybe you're just not close enough to the mic. Not that you have to swallow the mic, but yeah, now you sound better.
No, it's okay. Yeah, I was kind of I'm trying not to blow you up on there because, like I said, I don't have a meter on what I'm doing with you.
No problem. I can adjust all that over here.
Yeah,
So.
yeah. If you got a meter, let me know because I don't have one. I'm usually looking at it. So.
No problem, brother. So, you grew up in Oshkosh. What'd you get into? What was kind of like your first hobbies or interests as you were growing up?
Growing up, sports is a big thing.
Football, basketball.
I played every sport. Starting out with, baseball was a huge sport. You can play at the YMCA. You can get there at kindergarten. T-ball. A lot of my sports actually started out there because they were the ones that were doing sports outside for all different ages. So
that's such a great organization, the YMCA. I'm from the Madison area, so I grew up in a lot of small towns growing up. But then when I got to be, on my own, if you will, I moved back to Madison permanently, and I really like that organization because as a kid, same here. They had a nice pool. They had awesome basketball courts. They had a full fitness center, so you go and spend time working out, playing basketball, whatever, and swimming. And it kept me from getting into a lot of crap that otherwise I probably would have. So yeah, shout out to them. So
shout out to YMCA.
Yeah, for sure.
What people don't know is, everyone's been calling it the YMCA. They don't know that it's a Christian organization.
I did not know that either.
It's Young Men's Christian Association.
Young Men's Christian Association, or say that again?
Yep. Young Men's Christian Association. You had it.
Nice.
Yep. It originally started it's a club. It was originally started for a club in the essence of, well, this is where everyone goes. Over time, it became what we know as they're serving the community. I went to a lot of community sports through there where, all you have to do is pay the $11 and the kids are going to basketball. So
right.
It originally was just like a club for gentlemen, young men to go there and work out and stuff. I had, workout place. And then over the years, the more I got involved with the community, next thing you know, like I said, I played sports there. I played football, baseball, all the way up until probably I moved to 6th grade. So every year, 6th, 7th, 8th grade, probably. Yeah, I think I moved when I was in 8th grade or so.
Did you have one that stuck out that you liked the most? I'll tell you, I played everything too, but I always liked football. I don't know why. There was just something about that sport.
Yeah, I love football. Definitely love football with passion. That was one of the sports that everyone was trying to be good at. And, of course, living in Wisconsin with the Green Bay Packers.
I was just going to say, for sure. Yeah, we're all Jesus wannabes up here.
So it's no matter what, I got, I was getting footballs, as far as I can remember, I had Packers football. As far as I can remember, I had, there was always a reason to be playing football. And that was something that, we liked the Brew Crew. Brew Crew was cool. The Bucks have always been horrible.
Yeah.
When everyone just loves the Brew Crew because it's baseball, it's a time for it to get out,
Mm-hmm.
So it's a lot easier to deal with baseball. But hooray, it's spring, let's go out.
Yeah,
right. And basketball was just it's winter time and they suck, so it really wasn't a big deal. So
right.
Football definitely was pushed, every chance, and I got really good at it over the years.
Although I have to say, when I was a kid, I grew up with Jordan, and I made my way down a couple times, and it was amazing, absolutely amazing. So that was one thing I blessed myself with is the experience of seeing him play. Especially back in the day. I graduated in 92, so that was right at the time,
Oh, that was he was what was he doing in 92? What that was his only second or third year in, right? He was a young guy then.
He was a young guy. Yeah, I think he was maybe third or fourth, but I could be wrong. I'm so old now.
92, he was a little guy. So you seen him the making of Jordan.
Mm-hmm. Well, and then they started doing the slam dunk contests and all that stuff in the 90s, and it just grew to be what it is today. And it was fun to watch. Absolutely.
Did you see him? We went down. You seen him in Milwaukee, or you seen him in Chicago?
Chicago.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah, no, I never got a Bucks game ticket available at a time that I wanted or could go during that era.
Right.
I was interested this, that, and the other thing, but I went down and spent like a weekend in Chicago and did a bunch of stuff while I was down there. It was amazing. There's so much to do, especially as a tourist. They have like a medieval place where you can go. I forget what it's called off the top of my head, but basically you dine like medieval knights, and they do like jousting matches and all this. And
really?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like a Cable Guy, huh?
Yeah, it's exactly like that. I want to say it's like Camelot or something, but I forget the name of it. But yeah. Yeah, and then if you go like Michigan Avenue or Ontario Drive, I think is the other big one. That's where all the stuff's going down in terms of clubs and this and that, and it's just a lot of fun.
Oh yeah, see, I've been down there a couple times, Chicago area. Didn't get to see any sports though, but I've been through there. Been to see the big old beam in the middle of winter time and stuff. That was pretty cool. I did some photos down there with one of my friends. And,
it's always been bad, but it seems to have gotten worse.
I'm going to be honest with you. It's gotten worse. That's always Milwaukee. It's just a general. I haven't spent too much time in there after a few years ago.
Yeah.
Kind of when I moved out. That's why I moved down south. Peaceful.
So tell me. So obviously you moved to Oshkosh, playing a lot of sports. What got you into music?
Sure. Music was just one of those options. I remember them saying you can, I don't know, it was like fourth grade or whatever, and I remember them telling us that in middle school or in fifth grade, the next year you can play an instrument.
Yeah, I was in that same program, brother. I started out with the oboe.
Say it again?
I said it started out with the oboe. What'd you play?
The oboe? I started out with the alto saxophone.
Nice. Oh, at least you were cool. Yeah, there's this girl that I like.
Serious. You had to work that reed? Oh my gosh.
But the only other person that played the oboe was this cute little girl, and her and I were kind of dating back then. So, yeah.
You went with the oboe. Nice.
Yeah. I've played a couple instruments growing up. Currently, I play guitar, so that's kind of my thing these days. I've been playing that for like 25 years. But, yeah, I love music. You play anything currently?
After I did the saxophone and then went to the tenor saxophone back-to-back years. And then I moved to Milwaukee for a couple years. They had no music program there.
Big change from the small town, huh?
Oh, dude, it was ridiculous. Everything changed. Actually, that was a very...
did you jump on the fun bus, or did you was it culture shock?
It was definitely, it was a mixture of culture shock and let's tell you a couple of ways of culture shock.
Sure.
When I grew up in Oshkosh, it was me and maybe two or three other black families. Very rare. When I got to Milwaukee, obviously it's full. It's 90%,
Right.
And the difference is, you would assume that I would be more accepting to moving into a place where there's majority, brown and brown folks there. And it was actually a little bit tougher. And it was actually tougher because I came from a place where I knew how to articulate my words. I was avid about regular things where everyone else was just being ghetto.
Remember Chris Rock?
That's not cool.
Remember Chris Rock? He's like, "Oh, you're one of those smart y'all, aren't you?"
That's what it was when I got to Milwaukee. It was actually a tough time for me because I couldn't fit in. I wasn't black enough or ghetto enough. It just didn't work. They're like, "Yeah, man, we see, like I said, first of all, my language has always been like that, but I've always read. I was always a reader. I was always a writer. So it's kind of hard to adapt to a slang when you spend so much time working on writing.
Right.
So a lot of people I know that talk, with Ebonics and all that stuff, they don't spend a lot of time reading. It's not. It's a comprehensive thing where you kind of over time you can adapt to it. Yeah, I can talk ghetto if I need to, but most of the time I'm usually going to say full sentences and that was one in school. They're like, oh my gosh, do you use anything slang? I'm like, dude, what's the point of slang? I'm like, you guys aren't saying anything. You guys saying a whole bunch of, you guys saying a whole bunch of like action words, but like you're not really saying anything. So, so culture shock, definitely. It was completely different when I got there, and being that I was black, the majority, that I was still kind of outside of it. I wasn't ghetto enough to say.
So I'm hearing a lot of myself in you, just because I grew up in a small town, although instead of being black, I was a foster kid, right? So everybody looked at me as like, oh, there's that foster boy, like I hated that shit. And I always felt like every time I hear about racism, I feel like it rings a tone in some of what I went through. Not that I obviously, No,
I understand exactly where you're coming from. Exactly.
But yeah, so when I went to the big city, it was a culture shock, and then I jumped on the fun bus, and
I see the fun bus. I see.
But it wasn't as big. I mean, Madison is articulate. It's full of professionals. You have the college there, so everybody migrates to go to school. Everybody has, a high IQ because it's a tough school to get into. And so I was exposed to a lot of that. And I don't think that Milwaukee has as much of that. I mean, they do because they obviously have the university and shit, but there's so much complexity, and there's a lot of poverty, and the prices are high in Milwaukee, and so everybody struggles. So, yeah, and it's this repetitive cycle.
Absolutely.
There's so much that needs to change. I honestly feel like the system needs to break entirely before it gets better, but that's a different conversation.
That's a different conversation. You know what? And I have a podcast all about that. So
tell me about that.
Yeah. So Mixed America, not the Fall of the Vatican, but Mixed America. Me and one of my other brothers, Dave Dorian, we are talking about the gray area, which has got a lot to deal with. It's not really a black and white here in America. We talk more about, that we're all kind of inside of this system. And the black and white card that they pull out is just to make them white instead of dividing them. We speak about the experience of everyone here in America.
Right.
Whether it doesn't matter, because what happens is, when you allow the media and every outlet that's giving you news about people, their motive isn't to really make us be together. And a lot of people right now that we've seen, I grew up in, a lot of different stuff. Like I said, I grew up in Oshkosh, where I was like, I called, names all the time there. So the difference is, some of the guys that I met over the years, they were like, man, if I just would have sat down and talked with them for a minute, you would find compassion in that person.
Right.
You could find empathy within there, where the picture's painted up, these guys are just completely evil, and these guys are ghetto, and this is that, and this is that. But it's like, you got to remember that, every single one
some
of them,
but there's a percentage where that wall's pretty high, and if you like get into their personal zone, sometimes it causes issues.
I agree with that, but I also feel that, I'm a realistic type of thinker, and
sure.
I start off with saying that all of us have belly buttons. We all come from a woman,
Right.
And
no, you're absolutely right.
When you start there, it's easy to argue in a man's world, because the man's world is what this is made up of. All this stuff that we deal with, all men fighting over who's the biggest freaking, what. And when you remove that and you start bringing in the love of the woman, which is your mother, we're all born. Most people generally, even if they might be, outrageous, there is an essence of love within them. It has to be.
Right.
What we miss is we allow stereotypes, we allow the media, things that have been programmed to us over the years. It's not like an overnight thing. Things that have been embedded in us here in America, to nowadays kind of dictate without even having to, know a person. Just even on like the tattoo thing. At one point in time, when I had tattoos, I was not putting in jobs with tattoos. Now there's people with freaking full-fledged gauge face piercings, and it's not a problem. So, like, the way that the world has changed over time, some of the things that haven't got addressed are the people. You know, everyone's getting new rights as far as everyone thinks, right?
Mm-hmm.
And, we're still talking about my mixed America here, you know. Mm-hmm. Everyone gets these programs, and you see people getting bailed out, and you see that, and you're like, well, now these people have rights, and now these people are mad. And what's happening is, you know, people don't understand is we're not controlling the system. But we can't be mad at each other for, you know, that Spanish fellow that's over here for a couple of months getting hired to a corporation over you because he took a cheaper route. You know, that's the owner of the business that decided to cut you short of money to pay. And it's the same thing with, you know, like even like the police force and stuff like that. Like, yeah, there's bad people, but until you sit down and talk with someone that's either been in that situation or that understands what's going on, you're following the system that's put over you. You're a product of the system. So Mixed America, we want to make this clear when we talk to people like, hey, no, we all know that we're inside of a system which basically divides us through our race, our creed, our financial status, you know, bloodline, all types of stuff divides us.
Right.
And like I said, when you come down to the bottom end of it, we all come from the same. We all have moms, you know. And at that point, you can go from there. Let's talk about it. Mm-hmm. You know, let's be civil. Let's be a gentleman. Come sit down and talk. Why do you feel that way? What experience did you have that brought you to that? And we're not going to judge you on it because that's your experience. And that's what we miss now as people. There's no compassion in the individual. It's just either you're on this side or you're that side, and your experience doesn't matter. You know.
I had a thought as you were talking. The words that you were talking kind of resonated. This thought, which is, you know, if you look at history, you know, there's always so much to go around, right? But then you have this circle of people, the elites, whatever the hell you want to call them, that manage to get their hands on more, and they just don't give it up, and it comes at the cost of the people under them. And yeah, so like back in the day, it would, you know, the people that sacrificed it cost the most, or slaves, or they would invade another country or whatever. And then you have this poverty that we've had in America, you know, jumping forward to kind of more present. And the poverty, the rich get greedier, and so they take more. And so that poverty level grows. And then it's not just, you know, you can't keep it just within a particular minority circle anymore, then it affects everyone, you know. And if you take a look at this trend, the middle class is growing smaller and smaller, and the 1% are growing richer and richer, and this imbalance comes at a cost. And even though I'm not black, I have struggled my whole fucking life, man, you know, and I've had some really terrible things happen, and it's more of the fact that these greedy people, you know, the system that's in place are run by those greedy people, and they just keep taking more and more. And there's that trickle down effect that, you know, if I steal $1 million from you, you know, maybe nobody sees it but you. But if I'm stealing it from everybody, and I do it in small little, you know, 5% here, and I'm going to tax you a little bit more there, and I'm going to put another tax on this, and maybe some tariffs, and you know what I mean? All of a sudden, like, you realize that more than 80% of what we actually make is spent in some way, shape, or form on a tax. And how in the hell, the bigger the government gets, the more expensive it gets, the more greedier. There's a number of people that have to fill those seats, and then those people are greedy. And so, you know, it's this whole trickle down thing. So I'm big in support of reducing the size of government, you know, and we need some responsible people and some responsible leadership, and neither one of these candidates are that, in my opinion. It's another election of lesser of two evils, right?
They are the lesser of two evils. That is something that's always been part of America. This is the strategy that's been going on. And I'm going to be honest with you. I've over the years, I've always watched this stuff. I've never voted. I've never done it. I've always watched it. And, you know, it comes to where when you read so much like I have, you start understanding that, you know, the stuff that they do to us is because we, the people, allow them to.
True.
And what I mean by, and
they're sneaky sometimes, but they're very direct in others.
Well, let me elaborate on just what I mean, because obviously there's a system in place over us. But what I mean is, like right now, what I'm trying to do. Let me give you a breakdown. I'm trying to remove myself being dependent on from the government, and what I mean by that is, everything that we own, as long as we're engaging with them, is not ours, and that's the lie or the American dream that's been put over us to believe that we got to buy all this stuff. We are really consumers to their businesses, and as long as we hold on to their stuff, we're going to owe them. So what I've been working on, like for one, our food. Instead of us getting access to our own food and growing our own food, we have to go shop. That makes us have to go pay or work to get food. Everything that they do is allowing us to not be our natural self. We're now work slaves to a system. If I want to eat, I shouldn't have to go ask someone else to eat. I should be able to go get my own food. Now, people say, "Yeah, Gilbert, you know that's logical," but you know we're past that. And I'm like, "No, we're not. You know, you choose to have the cell phone. You choose to have the car that's taxed on. You choose to go get the license plate that's going to have a yearly tax on it for just driving the car. You know, your home. You know, granted, everyone needs a home. You know, and you know those are choices. But over the years, I've learned that your happiness and that they're talking about, that I've read in so many spiritual writings and stuff, is from within. There's no material that can actually bring the true happiness you're looking for. There's nothing in the money that's going to bring you anything. They're just possessions of matter. They don't really, you can't really own
They become trappings. That's what I like to think of them as.
That's a good one. I like that.
I've had a situation before. So let me share some stuff with you. And I want to get more back to like how you got to be where you're at, because that kind of tells your story. I definitely want to talk about some of the stuff with the podcast, and we can definitely go down that road a little bit too.
Gotcha.
It's just this is kind of a way of people getting to know who you are. Why should people trust you? You know, why should people trust me? And so we talk about like where we came from and our experiences and what made us who we are. You know, and that's kind of where this podcast is designed to try to tell. But that doesn't mean that we can't talk about all this. Don't get me wrong.
No, absolutely. No, you got me pumped on it because I knew that you had mentioned before about some of the things that you work on, and that's right up my alley. I'm usually thinking about it.
So let me tell you a little bit about me, because you don't know me well.
That's right.
Grew up a foster kid from 3 until I was 17. I was emancipated. I was a product of the system, if you will. My parents are pretty fucked up. My dad was a biker. Mom was a crazy biker chick. Barely knew them out of my entire life. As an adult, I couldn't connect with them because I was educated and smart, and they didn't appreciate that. They wanted someone more like them, you know, and I wasn't. Yeah, well, I was a pretty boy according to my dad, and you know, I was a preppy jock is what I was, you know. So anyways, Mom, she told me, you know, I can't be your mom, I can be your friend, and she really couldn't be that either. So I had to kind of keep her out of my life. My dad died young. Kind of gave me a perspective while I was going to college, you know, of life is short and you never know when you're gonna, you know, when your time's up. And so spent a lot of time traveling and doing various stuff. Got myself in, you know, really a good amount of, like, I've been to all over Europe, you know, Mexico, just everywhere. And I read a lot as a kid growing up on farms. You know, we didn't have a TV, we didn't have a radio. And so I read all the time. And so when you're telling me about, how much you read and have read, I was that kid that even on recess, because I was always the new kid at a new school, spent it in the library reading. You know what I mean? So totally that kind of guy. And then as I got to be an adult, I ended up traveling to all the places that I had read about, because I was always into ancient Egypt and all those types of history kind of things. So anyways, 2005, the federal government, they have a office called the Criminal Information Bureau, went paper to digital, and they put in a pot violation for 1 gram or less in 1999, I believe. And they entered it in as an arrest in 2005 for manufacturing and distribution of PCP amphetamine. So that was on my background check. So after school, and even during school, my financial aid ended up drying up, because if you have any drug issues on your background, they yank your financial aid.
Really?
Yeah. I was struggling while I was in school because couldn't find a fucking job. So I was working on, farms and really beating my ass trying to keep it all together while I'm in school, and so in 2013, right at the end of it, I ended up struggling. Came up to Sheboygan. Had a friend of mine that said, "Hey, I got a couch. Why don't you come up here and crash?" Because I couldn't find a place to rent to me. I couldn't find a job, and this has been going on for, ironically, almost 10 years.
Right.
And so, because those are the people that are looking at your background check, and it didn't show up on CCAP, but it did when they ran your background check for federal kind of shit. You know what I mean? And so, got hired at HSA Bank up here in Sheboygan, and they told me 4 days before I was supposed to start, they're like, "We're not going to have you start." And I'm like, "Why?" And they said, "Well, we found something on your background check that you didn't disclose." And I said, "Well, what's that?" And they said, "We saw you arrested in 2005 for manufacturing and distribution of PCP." And so I ended up on this journey, which we can talk about later if you want to know more now, we can. But I ended up having to bounce between. I had to bounce between the governor and the mayor and shit, and I was on the news. And then I was on a national talk show. So there's a long, crazy part there. So that got all expunged. Ended up finally getting the jobs that I should have got, and ended up going down to St. Thomas because I decided that I was going to explore a dream with the help of some family and friends. And I bought a yacht, so I had a 32-foot cabin cruiser.
What?
Yeah, and I went down to St. Thomas with my fiance, and got my was going to get the master diver certification. I guess I have my PADI open water certification because I didn't actually get that last bit due to my accident. But I had an accident while I was down there, and so ended up the last 4 years in recovery. But they had this issue with the medical software that they were using, and it corrupted my medical record. So what was populating on the screen didn't match my actual medical record. Showed surgeries I didn't have and all this shit. So it looked like I had some chronic history that I didn't have, and they ended up not doing imaging or treating me, and it just became this huge thing. And so a year and a half later, when things were realized and they finally started sending me out to specialists, they found all of this crap that I'd been dealing with the whole time. Having to fight for my care and all this stuff, and the hospitals ended up editing my records illegally and deleting interactions. So I have proof that they edited 303 pages of my medical record, and then they deleted 101 files. They ended up they were trying to cover their malpractice because they had performed 2 surgeries that I shouldn't have had as a result of those corrupted medical records.
No way.
Yeah, so of which I almost died, and they caused more complications. So they ended up going in and trying to change all this shit, and it was just horrible. So finally, we get to where I it was impacting my personal injury case. It impacted my care. I started losing my mind. It was a really tough time. And then coming out of that, I decided to, my body is kind of broken at this point, but my voice isn't. And so I started doing this podcast shit. And,
really?
Yeah. I started working with our state representative. I met a lot of people along the way. I've interviewed like a Hollywood film director. I've interviewed some champions that have fought the issues with medical malpractice and why we can't sue these fucking corporations. It's such a scandal. But yeah, so that's
You mentioned that. Yeah, you mentioned that. That's very interesting.
Yeah. So that's my history.
So you're all in one piece, though. So you've made it this far. You're in one piece. You're up walking and stuff, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So
my issues are like internal. So, like I have really bad issues with my pelvic floor. So that affects a bunch of stuff. And so I'm still dealing with that.
What I'm trying to say is you look great.
Well,
coming from all that.
I appreciate it. I fucking gained a lot of weight. That's for fucking sure. I feel like, I'm trying to lose it, but man, I'll tell you, it's not easy when you can't move much. So you don't do a lot of movement. No, I mean, I can get from here to there, but I can't do like long distances and, like my back goes out and shit. So I injured the pudendum nerve, and like that affects the nerves going to like your pelvic floor and for a bunch of other stuff. And
wow.
So it's kind of like hidden, you know what I mean? Because it's not right out there in the open. I mean, some of it is you can see me limping, or you can see when my back's out, or shit like that. But like most of it, like I'm dealing with daily, you don't see because it's just it's all private. So
that's what a lot of people. I ended up having a double hip surgery about 4 years ago.
Okay.
And it changed my life dramatically.
Why did you have to have double hip surgery? You were still a young guy. How old are you, by the way?
I'm 38.
Okay.
Which kind of ties into a little bit about me. I did play a lot of sports growing up.
Sure. So is this kind of grind and wear and tear?
No. Actually, I'm asthmatic.
Okay.
And when you're asthmatic, especially young, you run around with an inhaler. The inhaler has albuterol, which is a steroid. And me being the excessive athlete I was using my inhaler pretty much all the time. I was on a regular inhaler because I had asthma, and then I was taking that one for, if I can't catch my breath while I'm out, doing my sports, anyway. So if you understand and a lot of people don't understand this, but I'm glad that I get a chance to talk to you about it because I have an idea for later on. But a lot of those drugs that are given to your children and that we take, depending on the time of it can be effective to you. I was on, as my bones were growing, I was on a steroid. Now, it might not have been injecting straight up, like I'm getting pump steroids, but it's still a steroid that was making my lungs stronger. Over the years, I developed the vascular necrosis.
Say that again. You developed what?
A vascular necrosis.
Okay.
And don't get me wrong, I also, when I got a little older, I started drinking alcohol. But they said that could have made it worse.
What is that?
So basically, where your joints are and stuff like that in your bones, without enough oxygen, it's an oxygen thing. That's why it's vascular.
Okay.
And what it does is it starts to deteriorate right where that area is. So where my hips connect into that socket right there, that your hips connect into, I'm sure you've probably you've been through some work down there. So yeah.
Yeah. No, I'm pretty
your hips connected to that ball right there. Okay, well that little line in between my femur, it's going into my hip over the years started to looking like a Swiss cheese thing.
Oh, okay.
So I moved down here. I'm an athlete. I'm doing my thing. I'm still doing sports. I haven't stopped doing sports my whole life,
Yeah.
And I got down here, and I had a really bad stomach ache or something like that going on. And they're like, well, let's do a scan and let's see this. And he comes back. He's like, well, what's going on with your hips? My hips are fine, dude. I just ran. We moved out of Florida. I moved to Florida in the middle of winter up in Wisconsin. So me and my boys are playing basketball, tennis every day.
Right.
It's 80 degrees and it's January.
Yeah.
It's like February. Yeah. So we're out here playing sports all day. You couldn't tell me. We're playing football,
Yep.
And I'm like, yeah, dude, my hips are fine, man. They're like, well, we'll have you come back in. We see some darkness in there or whatever. I'm like, all right. Sure enough, they're like, yeah, so you've got vascular necrosis, long story short. And after that, I kind of went downhill. This was like a big pain. So I did the left side, I did my right side. That was the worst. And then they were like,
did they do them independently or at the same time?
I did them independently, but they weren't spaced out well enough. Me thinking that was Superman.
Sure.
I not knowing that how important my legs are. So I did the first one, and I healed really, really fast. I was on an extreme diet. Of course, I was on a very high fat. I was on a keto diet, basically.
Sure.
So I was healing very fast. I was eating very, very, very clean. Lots, heavily. That was more of a vegan side than anything, but keto is fat based. So I was eating a lot of fat too. So I healed up pretty quick. Got the left one done before I got because I had to go back to work sooner or later. So I was like, wait a year or two and then try to go to work and then stop. It would have sucked. So I did it back to back basically, and I never really gave my right leg the chance to really. So over time, it just became like I'm trying to drag myself around. Your legs are so important, man. You don't know it. You don't have them. And it's like, holy cow. So I've been dealing with that since then. I've changed a lot about my life dealing with it. So when you mentioned dealing with pain every day, like, trust me, brother, I know. I started playing that video game, that Rocket League game, because I couldn't do anything. Stuck in the room. I was on the bed for almost a year and a half.
Mm-hmm.
But in a year and a half of doing nothing. So got on the computer and
got to do something productive.
I did music before, but I ended up getting into the Rocket League and started playing vids, and then later on, I was somewhere along the line. I was like, I got to get back to music. I have my equipment still. There you have it.
Nice. So let me back you up just a little bit. So went from Oshkosh, moved down to Milwaukee.
That's right.
And you then moved down south.
No, I actually moved to Washington State.
Okay.
Before that with my mom. Yeah, we moved up to Washington, which is a beautiful place, actually. Washington State's really cool.
Nice. So moved out there. Had you gone to college? Did you have any like sport scholarship offers, anything like that?
No. Once I was only in Washington for a year or two. Would have some scholarships there if I would have stayed, but my mom brought me back to Milwaukee, and after that it just went downhill. I moved back. We were in the middle of the city.
Rains a lot out there, doesn't it?
Out of Washington? Oh, it rains a lot. Yeah, it rains, but it's beautiful. It's
Is
really
it?
different.
Yeah. I just heard seasonal depression. You get all that rain and shit. So.
Yeah, but yeah, so no, I moved back to Milwaukee when I was like 15 or so, and being 15, 16, those are the toughest ages probably for you to be in Milwaukee, especially being a young black man. Yeah, it's.
What were the schools like?
The schools it was a mixture of, so when I said I moved there the first time, I told you I moved there when I was moving out of Oshkosh, and it was so weird then. Well, it was the same thing when I got back. Just people that got older, and became more materialistic, So now everyone's running around with Jordans and all this stuff, and I'm like, you guys don't even have any money, and you guys are buying $100 shoes.
Yeah.
And, I never could afford that stuff, so I always thought that was a joke. Like, you guys will, and once again, I'm coming back. I'm a sports guy. I'm trying to do the right thing, and they're like, "Yeah, we're doing this," and before you know it, I'm doing the same thing.
Yeah.
So before you know it, there's school programs where it was like, the school programs are there, but very scarce, and then it was like you're putting yourself in a situation being out in a certain neighborhood. So, I didn't really be out. When I was going to school, I would get back to the city, so there's a lot of danger involved when you're running around, extracurricular activities, after hours.
Right.
You know, when it gets dark in Milwaukee, when it gets dark in any big city, it gets dark there. You know what I'm saying? So,
how are the cops down there?
They could care less. You know, I'm not sure of Milwaukee, but Milwaukee is number 50. Probably is the worst state for educational in the whole in all of our states.
That sucks.
It has, so the educational level there for especially for the black children and stuff is the worst it's dead last.
So you're kind of
mixed with that.
You're kind of an autodidact like me. I don't know if you know what that means.
Say it again.
An autodidact.
What does that mean? It sounds pretty cool.
It's when I came across it, I was like, ooh, I like that. And I haven't let it go since. It's a self-taught person, someone that's a self-learner. And that was kind of me. Before the internet, I read all the time, you know, and now even with the internet, you know, it's so amazing how much stuff you can research or look at, or, you know what I mean? It's just an endless black hole of interestingness. And somewhere along the line, I'm not sure I get smarter, wiser. I don't know. One of the two.
You know what? I question myself that too. I'm like, am I getting smarter off some of the things I read, or, you know, but, you know, the reading aspect is because, you know, like I said, I grew up in Milwaukee. When I came back, not Milwaukee, but even like in Oshkosh, and it was never cool to be ghetto or silly or uneducated when I was going to school there. You know, sports was a serious thing. You wanted to be sports, you had to be a gentleman. You had to be
right.
You know, there was everything went along with it to be where you didn't even get into those things. You know, and I was like I said, I was in every sport. So, you know, one year it's wrestling. You know, some years I was on a mat rat wrestling team. You know, some years I was on a traveling baseball team. And you can't do that if you're not no one's parents are going to want to take you from Oshkosh to Ripon or to Milwaukee or to any other places to play baseball. You know,
right.
That. So, like I said, when I got to Milwaukee as an adult, kind of everything fell off, and it was just like, hey, you know, I still kept my knowledge going, but that's kind of the width of my growing up stage after that.
So your heart stayed in Oshkosh.
That's the true me. Yeah, that's the true me. The Milwaukee was just the guy to get through that city, you know. And I'm ashamed of that guy to say it, because if you put someone that's in a situation where now they fear for their life and they have to take on different roles as a very young person, you know.
Mm-hmm.
When I moved here, I was 13. I never imagined dying when I was 13.
You might be the perfect person for me to ask this to, because of your bouncing and your perspective and just what you've shared with us. So let's talk about the BLM movement that has come out this last year.
Yeah.
I personally, I went to school in small towns, and so a lot of the same morals and a lot of the same things that were important in Oshkosh were important in those small towns. You know,
you're in Wisconsin, right? You said you're in Wisconsin, so I imagine. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Definitely.
Cambridge was one of them. You know, Verona, Waunakee, and then I went to Madison, and Madison was. It's like a mini Milwaukee, you know.
Right. Well, it's a big city. It's one of the biggest. It's a bigger city compared to Neenah and all that other stuff. You know?
Right.
It's the capital for one, and then it's actually, you know, I mean, without Green Bay up north, there's not really much else in
But the rest of Wisconsin would say that Madison doesn't represent Wisconsin, you know, like.
Right.
And I would agree with that, you know, especially having moved away and traveled a lot. Wisconsin's, you know, really eclectic. A lot of people are. There's a lot of educated people in Wisconsin, but there's a lot of non-educated, or there's a lot of very unique, opinionated people. Trying to say PC on this podcast.
That's a nice way to keep it. You know, copacetic. You know, there's a lot of alcoholism in Louisville.
Oh, big time.
I grew up, I'm drank with the best of them. That was part of the culture.
Yeah.
That's part of the culture of Wisconsin. They know about it in other places. So,
Yeah.
I know what you mean by that. With some of the people, the way they think. Like I said, I grew up in Oshkosh in the '80s. In the early '80s, it was a different place there. And a lot of racism that people didn't know because if you weren't a person of color, you didn't see that.
And I mean, drugs were like something that you would dabble with, but they weren't the hardcore. Like you weren't into like crack and heroin, and unfortunately these days, my goodness, it seems to be a lot of that going around. I lost a friend of mine a couple of years ago up in Manitowoc from a heroin overdose. And I'm
sorry to hear that, brother, because
I just seen him like a couple days before that, and so it was just
my buddy Dustin, my good friend Cody, back home, his little cousin Dustin passed away from heroin, and I don't know how familiar you are with the drug scene or not, but
terribly.
When kids that are younger than me at 38 are dying from heroin, it's a very weird situation. Because
it is.
Heroin's an old school drug. That's an old drug.
Mm-hmm.
So to see young kids shooting up or whatever they're doing, I don't know how they're getting into this. Listen, it is a very, very it's an inside look at what really goes on in this country. I never would have seen that coming, bro. I'm like, the kid overdosed. I'm like, he's like 29. I'm like, what is he doing?
Yeah.
They're like heroin. I'm like, heroin, dude. I'm like,
well, and it seemed like
we did mushrooms. Yeah, we got mushrooms, acid, a little bit of alcohol. Cool. Maybe some Percocets or whatever.
Yep.
But and that was the extent of it.
I did acid a little bit.
Somewhere or something.
I did acid a few times, because it was the popular thing
to
do.
Right, but it was never where
a lot of weed.
It was never at this level,
Yeah.
A lot of weed, and people just acting. Now I'm just hearing people overdosing off of these drugs. I'm like, what has happened? I'm like, I never thought heroin was cool. We didn't even see it in my generation. Like I said,
no, I didn't either.
Mushrooms every once in a while. Yeah. Right. So how did it jump back to where these kids? But what you were saying, I didn't want to take you off.
No. And I think that's a good question to ask. So what makes it that these kids are now into heroin again, right?
Yeah, and the only thing I know...
History should have told them, wait, but it takes them to be shooting up too, right? So what is it that they're trying to escape from, or what is it that they're finding appealing about it, knowing what they already know about it?
That's what I was trying to say. I'm like, this is an old drug that was used for people for recovery back then. A lot of those people that, war vets are using this drug. These people were coming, this was an older drug. Why would someone like me at my age 20, when I was 27, hey, baby, after we get to the club, go to the house, needles right, we're going to pass out for like an hour or two. Like, what? Like, no. Like, why did that sound cool to you guys? Like, I'm trying to go home and hang out, and you guys are going to go nod all the way out? You guys are trying to go to sleep? I want to know where that was cool at for this young generation. I'm trying to figure out, I don't know, it just blew my mind that there's kids dying from heroin, and, talk about it in the thousands. We're talking about 2010 after, that people that are younger than me, in their early 20s.
Well, I think sometimes you have to be an addict to know what those reasons are. And speaking of addicts, so I literally spoke to my ex-girlfriend a couple days ago, and she was a crack addict when she was like 19, early 20, and ended up getting in trouble and ended up having to go to jail, 5 felonies, blah, 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 blah. She has always had, I don't know if you know what transference is. She's always had an issue with various drugs because she never kicked just the actual issue of being an addict.
Addiction. She just never got rid of the addiction.
Yeah. So it's bounced to various different drugs within the opioid category,
Oh wow.
And
that's rough.
Yeah. So but it was interesting. It was she literally went in this morning for a triple bypass surgery on her heart. She got rushed to the the hospital, and then she had some lung infection that I don't know what it was. They did a biopsy with this heart surgery, so hopefully they'll figure that out. But then they ended up having to induce a coma. So and then she had a heart attack, and then they found out, lo and behold, she had 3 arteries that were like 100% clogged. So, and she's only 36. Isn't that crazy?
Yeah, just all the way. I mean,
yeah. But like
I party, but I don't know, man. I mean, not everyone's built the same either.
Well, so I know the rest of the family, and I don't think that they deal with those heart issues or the other issues. So I think that sometimes I think it's genetic, that you have a predisposition to addiction. Do you think? Do I have it?
Yeah.
What are your thoughts on
that? So when you mentioned that, I understand that most people that things can be passed down through genes. No, I didn't understand this at first. I thought it was kind of weird. Things can be hereditary, but me growing up in Milwaukee a little bit, I got to see some first fledged with crack, and I got to see it really close with family members of my friends.
Sure.
And I seen it run through all of their family, and I seen certain ones of their family stay away from drugs, but then later on touched one drug and this took over this instant, where it was like you should have never touched it. So it is very
like gateway, like they started smoking pot and then all of a sudden they're into heroin, or like what do you mean?
No, I like that, but saying like like cocaine. I mean, cocaine's an addictive drug by itself.
Sure.
But say my kid's mother.
Rick James said it best.
So let me give you an example. Her family, I know her family very well. One of my artists that I grew up with and did music with became very close with him, and he makes it clear that he doesn't mess with no cocaine, no crack, nothing like that. And because they're all of their uncles and all of their grandma, all of them are all dope fiends. You know what I'm saying? And so that was something that he had made clear that was never cool. Now I've been dabbing it, but he's never done it with us. You know, right. He's never. We're up late night partying and doing books. He never did that. He's made that.
Instead of us getting access to our own food and growing our own food, we have to go shopping. That makes us have to go.
She was horrible.
Pay our word to get really bad experience. Everything that they do is allowing us to not be natural self.
My kid's mother
over the years
somehow started messing with.
If I want to eat, I shouldn't have to go ask someone else to eat. I should go.
It kind of connects to what you asked and how people got.
People say, "Yeah, Gilbert, that's logical," but. We're past that. And I'm like, no, we're not. We choose to have the cell phone. We choose to have the car. We choose to go get the license plate that's going to have a yearly tax on it for just driving the car. Your home. Granted, everyone needs a home. And those are choices. But
those people
over the years I've learned
that, like I said, like his mother.
Your happiness in that they're talking about that I've read in so many spiritual writings and stuff is from within. There's no material which can actually bring the true happiness. There's nothing in you that's going to bring you anything. They're just possession. They don't really. You can't really own that,
and you're already in an addictive nature.
That's a good one. I like that.
It's made and it's made for you to. It's an addictive drug. It's no different than the nicotine, but at like a higher level. So you're talking about. Just a little bit of something that you like.
Okay.
However much they cut it with cocaine, but your mom, for all you know, your mom could have been a dope. I said, I know them, so I'm not saying that I know for sure. But if you're born out of, as a drug baby, you were dependent of that drug coming out. They had to wean you off of that with the drug. I know I'm sure you've heard about that. When you hear about heroin addicts and at the high level, like, your baby comes out. Your baby needs it. And at that point, they are getting a drug to get off that, whether it's like methadone or whatever they use, which is another form of it.
No, absolutely. No, you got me pumped on it because I knew that you had mentioned before about some of the things that you work on.
And it's not in your family.
That's right up my alley. I'm usually thinking about
addictive personality doesn't mean drugs. It could be people that want it, that have addictive personalities with shopping. know, people like to shop. Some people
That's
are
right.
addicted to prescription pills. You know, it could be anything. An addiction's an addiction. Right. You know, so that they can control. Yeah, just chill out. I can see that, definitely.
I see. Okay.
Yeah. Yep. It definitely is great. Yep. Well, I mean, we've been around the block too, you know. I mean, those are kind of like regular drugs for the American world. If you're not smoking weed and doing coke, you know, that's something that's just here everywhere. It's kind of and cigarettes, you know. Those are the main three: cigarettes, drugs, alcohol, and those, you know. That's here, man. You're gonna find that, you know. But
okay. See trouble.
yeah, and it wasn't legal down here in Florida, and I ended up getting a medical card, and it's very expensive. But it's also you're getting every time. Okay, so it's like you know how it is on the streets. You know, it's all right. Oh, it's good. It's really good. It's all right. It's really good. There, it's like, hey, it's gonna be really good every. You're gonna get your money's worth every time. But they sell what you can get it legally. You're talking about of flour. Oh snap! That's like double. Well, I don't know. I haven't bought leaf. Right. Really. Uh huh. Right. Right. Really. Yeah. Right. Yeah, I seen that coming. I seen that. Yeah.
Oh, go ahead. Yeah, no, it's fine. We can keep it moving now.
Or or
Oh, jeez. Okay.
you know, there's a lot of practices now that they're using it for that type of stuff, and I've also been looking into it because one of my buddies, there's like a professional clinic down here that actually does that. They're like, yeah, and I was
What?
he invited me, and he kept on jumping around the word. I'm like, what are you guys doing in there? He didn't say it, and I was like, what are you guys doing? I'm like, you guys smoking weed in there or what? And he kept on jumping around what they were doing. There's like there's doctors involved, and people are funding it. I mean, I live in also you gotta remember I live in Florida, so like people have money, they fund shit, dude. Like you start off, if you and a buddy's got money, you're gonna open up a business tomorrow, you know, and most likely you're gonna get it done. So
somehow they've got it to where these guys are literally, it's a clinic, and I guess you're going in there, you're getting set up, you're talking about your stress, whatever you're going through, and then you're dosing with them. They're giving you, it's controlled dosing, as far as I know. Oh. You know what I mean? Like, yeah, and that's weird. I don't find it weird because I understand natural aphrodisiacs for your body. It's no different than the cannabinoid. You know, we react to them differently than actual, you know, chemicals. So, you know, eating a mushroom or, you know, eating the raw CBD, you know, something that's from the earth that actually, I could definitely see it having long-term better stuff, you know. But it's doing that. No way. We didn't get to the Black Lives Matter, but we'll come back to that. We'll come back to the Black Lives Matter. So I moved to Florida. I don't know if I told you, the record label I started back in Appleton. I started a record label that was supposed to help people for people that were impoverished. So, you know, like I said, I grew up in Milwaukee, and I ended up getting in some trouble, spent some time in jail. And when I was in jail, I said, you know what, you guys will never go through this again. I'm going to make a place for us, and we can make money. Really? It's not going to be stuff in jail anymore. So I created Spotlight Entertainment. No. This is me in jail. I was in jail. I was in there, and I actually my family was kind of all weird. I'm telling other mates this. I'm telling other mates in that city because everyone's rapping, and I got out and started the label, and I ended up bringing guys in, and you know, I actually took care of these guys. I was getting these guys food, clothes. So you're all in one piece, though. Anything you need. I made you're in one piece. You're up walking and stuff, right? You guys need to get your HSCD. Okay. So you're actually, you know. So I was like, yeah, I could take you in there, paperwork. I could tell you, you know, I do all this stuff, and I'm like, yeah, you know. And so we started the business, whatever. But over time, that failed. What I'm trying to say is, you look great. It failed. But, from all that. There you go. That's where I met Mike. I seen you in your live. Mike Jones came to my show at Tom's Garage in Appleton, which is, I was like 26, like 26 back then. Yeah, 26. So you don't do a lot of movement. I think Mike's 2 years older than me. Yeah, Mike's like 2 or 3 years older than me. So Mike was like, he might have been just turning. What does he say? There's a flow. He said, I'm trying to catch a meal by the age of 30. So yeah, he was 29 because he was like, I'm trying to catch a meal by the age of 30. There's only 2 months left, so I got to snatch it in a hurry. I remember him saying that. Yeah, that's when he first came to the label. He was just a monster. Yeah. Mike's always been dope. He was in a rock band before he was even a rap crew. So when I met him, he was with a rap crew called Midwest Entertainment. Another gentleman named They came to our show. They were driving down every Tuesday to Tom's Garage. And at that time, we were just coming out. We were growing in 2006 when I started. And Mike Jones, these guys show up with like embroidered shirts and stuff. Like, you guys got embroidered shirts. Like, I'm 38. Like, so they showed up, you know, they had their own. Which kind of ties in a little bit about me is I did play a lot of sports. So they had their own logos, they had their own shirt, you know, all the stuff. And me and my crew were like, no, actually, one thing led to another. You know, drafted Menace onto the team when you're asthmatic, especially young. That's when I met Haler, met Mike Jones. Then Haler has a butyral, which is a steroid. And me being the expensive athlete I was using that inhaler. He's the one that brought our clothing line to us. Regular inhaler because I had asthma, and then I was taking that one for, you know, if I can't catch my breath while I'm out, you know, doing my sports. That's Menace, bro. I've never seen it. You understand what a lot of rappers that we have. At one point in time, I'm glad that I got a chance to talk to you about it because I have an idea. We got about 10 to 20. A lot of those drugs that they're giving of our marketers, which are called Spotlight Lady, which were girls that just walked around and looked at our flyers, our CDs, and then we had graphic designers. I was on as my bones were growing. I was on steroids.
Mike was really like
injecting
straight up rapper that knew about stuff and knew a little bit of it.
Steroids that was
other people that were professionals, and we were doing stuff.
Over the years,
I watched my vascular guy today. When I started my business, it was
vascular necrosis.
So I made Mike Jones. Mike Jones became.
Don't get it wrong. I also, when I got a little older, I started drinking alcohol.
He was better at graphics.
They said that could be.
And I'm everything that he can do, but I'm better at the recording.
So basically, where your joints are,
perfect dynamic duo,
without enough oxygen.
The first show that we ended up getting, one of our biggest shows at Club West, that's when we hired Dave. Now, I don't know if you were in the conversation.
What it does is it starts to deteriorate.
I met both of those guys here. They're in there.
My hips connect into.
Were you in there? I don't think
pocket right there.
Well, anyways,
those guys connect into.
Yeah, those guys came.
You've been through some work down there, so yeah.
With that show.
Your hips connected to that ball right there. Okay, well, that little line in between.
So when that failed,
my ball,
after
my femur,
thousands of dollars,
it fucking my hip over the years started to,
and the people doing drugs. He was one of those guys. I got to my ends with of it.
I moved down here. I'm a athlete. I'm doing my thing. I'm still doing sports. I haven't stopped doing sports my whole life,
Once I got to the end, I moved back to
I had a really bad stomach.
I started working at Buffalo Wild Wings.
And they're like, well, let's do a scan and let's do this. And
Buffalo Wild Wings.
He comes back. He's like, well, what's going on with your hip?
Allowed me to work there with my tattoos and my neck.
I moved down to Florida. I moved to Florida in the middle of winter in Wisconsin. So me and my boys were playing basketball because we were top age.
Yeah, so over the years,
when I was like February. So we're out here playing sports all day.
I was a business account manager, stuff like that was dropping fun.
And I'm like, yeah, the magic are fine, man. Well, I can come back in and see some darkness in there or whatever. All right.
I had met.
Sure enough, they're like,
so he's got that other guy out of the service with me, and I got
after that, I kind of went downhill.
His girlfriend at the time.
This was like a big thing. So I did the left side, I did my right side. That was the worst. And then they were like, you need to do the left. I did them independently, but they were.
He was the first one to get a girlfriend, and we were like, "Oh shoot, I almost got a girlfriend." And he was like, "Well, whatever."
I not knowing that how important.
It got done being in.
So I did the first one, and I healed
really,
I think
Mike was still just partying.
I was on an extreme diet. I was on a very high fat. I was on a keto diet. So I was feeling very fast. I was eating very, very fast.
That was the end of his career. He started following
anything, but started following fat things. So I was eating.
Started following
pretty quick. Got the left one done before I got.
He started following like Humphreys McGee.
So I had to go back to work sooner or later. So I was like,
that was the end of his career
or two, and then I had to go to work, and it would have sucked. So I did it back to back.
When I met him, he was just at party mode. I think
I never really gave.
And those other guys were around that age. And
over time,
Nick was like, "Yeah, me and Carly get really close, and
I'm trying to drag myself around.
Talking, cool,
and don't know it.
Like, I'm gonna move to Florida.
It's like, holy cow!
Oh, what
I've been dealing with that since then.
This is in the middle.
Changed a lot of my life.
January of 2014.
Like, trust me, bro. I know. I started playing that video game.
It was so cold in Wisconsin, bro. It was so cold. It was record cold that year.
I was on the bed for almost a year and a half.
Yep, it was so
a year and a half of doing
that was a really rough year.
Computer and
we're in there crazy,
I did music before, but I ended up getting into the Rocket League and started playing.
You think there was one she had eye surgery?
I was somewhere on the line. I was like, I back to music.
I might give the check to our landlord, and the check never got.
There you have it.
And me and Mike were already skeptical about these landlords, so we didn't trust them anyways. So when they said that we didn't pay the money, we're like, dude, we're not falling for that. Dude, like, come on, Mike's like my mom.
No, I actually moved to Washington State.
So we went all the way through.
We moved up to Washington
State and stuff, and everything's going down. And literally, we end up finding out that they never did get the money, and that his mom filed the check on like the death.
No. Once I was only in Washington for
eye surgery, right? So like.
She had a special surgery, but we went back to Milwaukee.
And after that,
it just went downhill. I moved back.
She put that thing down somewhere, never seen it again. It all collided.
Washington, it rains a lot. Yeah, it rains, but it's beautiful.
We're like, we're homeless now. We we just got kicked. We were basically kicked out, and we were wrong because they were still.
Yep.
And now we have
I moved back to Milwaukee when I was like 15 or so, and
it's the middle of winter. And
being 15,
like,
16,
well,
those
what
are
else are we gonna do?
So
I called Buffalo Wild Wings down here
in Milwaukee.
Especially being because I was a trainer at Buffalo Wild Wings, a wing certified trainer. I'm like, yeah, we're interested.
It was a mixture of when I said I moved here the first time, I said I'm a certified trainer here in Oshkosh, and it was weird. What was the same thing when I got back? People I got older.
And they're like, oh yeah, absolutely.
Have you any? So now everyone's running around with all this stuff. Yeah, we don't even have any money. You guys are buying $100 trainers I never could afford that stuff, so I always thought that was silly. You guys say, yeah, we don't want you guys. You guys are once again. I'm coming back. I'm a sports guy. I'm trying to do the right thing, and they're like, yeah, we know. So we're doing.
My buddy already had it lined up.
Before you know it,
just got that lined up.
The same thing.
We sold our stuff.
There's school programs where it was like school programs were there, but very scarce. And then it was like you're putting yourself in a situation being out there. So I didn't really do that.
2015 or so.
When I was going to school, I always get back to the city. So there's a lot of danger involved.
We moved to Northport. That's where they were living at.
After hours. When it gets dark in Milwaukee, it gets dark in any big city.
It's the Gulf side. Yeah, I'm on the Gulf side. So I'm literally about
they could count
half hour or so.
I'm not if you're not sure with Milwaukee, but Milwaukee is number 50. Probably is the worst.
Hurricanes. Actually, it's pretty intense when you don't know what they are because
in all of our states,
the storms here, tropical storms.
The educational level there for especially for the black children. And
here it's a mixture. It'll rain and some mud and blow stuff down.
So the poverty rate mixed with that.
What's that?
Say it again.
Oh, okay. Oh, yeah. Savannah. Yeah.
What does that mean? It sounds pretty cool. The family to like a traffic.
Gets up there, yup. But so the last couple that hit here, was pretty intense experience. But after a while, it's no different than a tornado, And don't get it wrong, it can be bad depending on where you are. But when you live it dies once it gets on land. It's water. So a lot of hurricanes when they start traveling on the land, they're going to die down. And Florida's really country. If you've ever looked at Florida,
you know what? I question myself that too. Am I getting smarter of some of the things I read, or
the western side? In the middle is nothing but swamp.
The reading aspect because
if you get the further away you get from the coast, the better you are. It's gonna by the time you're gonna get it wrong, you might get to
it was never cool to be
which is like the tail of it. So you'd be like, yeah, the hurricane was way over there. But you walk outside and get blown away.
There was everything would allow it to be for you to even get into those things. I was like I said, I was in every sport, so. One year it's wrestling. Some years I was on mat rat wrestling.
Yeah,
I was on a traveling base.
The southern draw or the southern style is way
from Oshkosh to Griffin or to Milwaukee or to any other place in baseball.
That's right. The country folks,
like I said, when I got
and I say country folks because southern country is different than Wisconsin country. It's not the same. Southern and country aren't the same thing. Down here, it's a southern thing. Everyone has a feel for love down here.
That's the true
meaning.
Yeah, that's the true meaning. The Milwaukee was just the guy to get
through. First of all, it's too hot to be. It's hot year round, so I was told over the years you don't allow because
I'm not even. I'm ashamed to say because.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, Milwaukee is fast moving
in a situation where now they fear for their life and they have to take on different roles.
Oh, it's basically it's weird. Let me elaborate.
I was 13.
The crime rate where I live at is like you don't really see it like that. You get a couple drunk drivers, you get whatever, But being that we're on the coast, we have Siesta Key, which is like the top 3 beaches in the world all the time. That's right around the corner. That's up the street from us here. So it's like you're living in a tourist area where there's tourists everywhere. Everything's made for the tourists, right? The economy is based on the tourists. You
got Orlando Studios. So without them, there's no really money flowing through here. You know what I mean? Like that's what the bars and restaurants. So the crime on it is more or less when people come from out of town. You're in Wisconsin, right? You said you're in Wisconsin, so I imagine the most people here. Don't get it wrong. There's people here too that do it, but like during like spring break, you're going to see more stuff. During like 4th of July, you're going to see more stuff. But when it's not in season, it's just a laid back. Right. Well, it's a big city. It's one of the biggest. It's a bigger city compared to Atlanta and all that other stuff. You know, it's the capital. It's a little more expensive here. It's actually more expensive. I mean, without Green Bay up north, there's not really much else in that. I mean, what else do you got? Yeah. What else do you got? Right. Well, that's what it is here. That's what it is here. But it's also, how can I say it? You know, $1,000 for a 2-bedroom, but it goes up. You know, you're gonna have a lot of different fees. You know, they got fees for everything here because it's really made for tourism. So they don't really care to rip your arm off. The people that live here really don't get that much respect here. You know, live on. Yeah, so that's why it's expensive. So buying houses. Yep. And that's the thing is like they come here, they freaking leave stuff on the beach. You know, and, that's a nice way to say it. That's a nice way to keep it. Thanks for coming. You know, beautifully. That's one thing about. There's a lot of alcoholism in this stuff. You know, I grew up. You know, freaking drink. Oh no, you can see through it. No, you can see through it. Only that's part of the culture. I know about it now. The stuff that a lot of these often goes into brackets. I know what you mean by that. Some of the people that are actually cold early 80s, you're going to see through that. Different place there, you know. You're going to see through it. A lot of racism that people didn't know because if you weren't a person of color, you know, you didn't. Okay. But is Savannah more on the eastern side, right? Okay, yeah. See, everything on the eastern, I think, here it's so shallow. Yeah, dude. You know, you can walk, you can jump out. There's so many sounds. It's the golf. It's really not it's a completely different style of. You should. Yeah, I'm sorry to hear that, brother, because you know. Nice. Yeah, my buddy Dustin, my good friend Cody, back home. His little cousin Dustin passed away from heroin, and I don't know how familiar you are with the drug scene or not, but when kids that are younger than us, younger than me at 38 are dying from heroin. There's a lot. That shows and stuff. Heroin is too. You mentioned that you had some surgeries, bro, and I can imagine being to see young kids shooting up or whatever. I don't know how your boats feel like. So when it gets cold here, it's an issue for me. It's like I usually stay inside and start wearing sweatpants. I mean, I'll drop down when it goes on. It feels really cold here, you know. But that's a big thing for healing, man. The kid neighbor goes. I'm like, he's like 29. What is he doing? And definitely heroin. I'm like, heroin, dude. I'm like, huge thing. Like I said, we smoked weed, we did mushrooms. Yeah, we got mushrooms out here. I mean, there's alcohol. Cool. Maybe some Percocets or whatever, stuff like that. But like, and that was the expensive. They're hiring those, you know, maybe you might get drunk and there's always a show here. There's always someone coming in the day. Right, but it was never like you can literally where it was never at this level, you know. Like all the parks down here, like you know, and people just acting. Now I'm just hearing people overdose. You can go to like a big park. What is happening? I'm outside. I never thought here. We didn't even have it. Like I said, we got mushrooms every once in a while. And right, they'll just. So how do we jump back to where these kids? But you know, down south of here, they do shows there every. You were saying I didn't want to take you off. I just blew my mind to mention that because diners, techno DJs, and freaking all that stuff. That stuff is like that stuff pops out all the time here because and the only thing I know during summertime they're doing it here, and then during snowbird season, which is like December on through, everyone else is here as well. So definitely, if you're looking for to be in an entertainment place, that's what I was trying to say. I'm like, this is an old drug that was used for people for recovery back then. A lot of people that, you know, more people were times here. These people were coming, you know, this was our smaller drugs. Why would someone like me at my age 20, when I was 27, hey, yo, baby, after we club, probably more than that. I'd say beat us right to pass out for like an hour. Those are just small. Like what? Like, no. You know, like, why did that sound cool to you guys? Like, I'm trying to go home and hang out and you guys are going to go mad all
I would
the way out.
definitely come pay a visit down here.
Where I want to know where that was cool at for this young generation. I'm trying to figure out, like,
always growing here.
I don't know. It just blew my mind.
Like I said, you would think that there would be enough beach. There would be saturated. It's not saturated.
That's people that are young.
I'd be like, you guys are getting money. Like, what's that? Yeah, definitely. Yeah, this is a really cool place. I love it. I've been here for 5 years. Met my wife here. She's born and raised here. She's a real Floridian. Right. Thanks, man. Thank you. Absolutely. She was born and raised here in Florida. She's a true Floridian. And like I said, when you meet, there's different people that are here. When you meet Floridians, they're usually more on the countryside. The true people that are here aren't really mixed yet. I know, because this isn't a beach or it's a country. Like I said, you got Tampa, you got Miami, you got Jacksonville, you got Tallahassee, not Tallahassee.
Oh, wow. That's rough.
You know, but still, those places are it's more country than it is the city. You know what I mean? So people that are from here, they're super relaxed, laid back, hospitable. Not a lot of drama. This is a place for drama. A lot of backstabbing going on. It's not the place for it. People here are trying to enjoy their day. They enjoy the area they live in. They enjoy being able to go for a walk and enjoy the park, enjoy beaches that are, it's a clean place, not dirty, it's not litter everywhere. So and they take care of their stuff. So it's a very peaceful. She came to the
just all the way. I mean, because I party, but I don't know, man. I mean, not everyone's built the same either.
Other places, right?
Yeah. So when you mentioned that, I understand that most people that things can be passed down through genes. No, I didn't understand this at first. I thought it was kind of weird. Things can be hereditary, but
we were running miles down here. We were running everywhere.
Me going up to Milwaukee a little bit, I got to see
a lot of bike trails and stuff like that.
And I got to see
it's made for what you want to do. When you go on vacation for people that are active.
I see the
there's kayaking and all that stuff. There's trails everywhere. There's bike trails everywhere.
Everyone has their family stay away from drugs. But then later on, touched one drug and this took over them instantly. Where it was like you should have never touched it. So it is very.
No, you're not going to find any of that. The most thing that you're going to find.
No, I like that. But they're like cocaine. Cocaine's a different type of stuff. My kid's mother. I'll give you an example. Yeah, So let me give you an example. Her family. I know her family
can actually bite you. Like we got sweat beads with music with. But everything else is going to run from you, and as far as you would,
he makes it clear that he doesn't
grow here.
Cocaine, no crack.
Florida's very, very hot, and it's sand.
Because there's all of their uncles and all their grandma, all their.
The only thing that can survive here is kind of like how it is. Like it's got to be so.
That was something that he had made clear that was never cool. I've been dabbing it, but he's never done it.
The soil that comes out of there,
we're up late night partying and do a couple bumps. He never did that. He's made that clear that that's go because. Watch his mom be a complete, she was horrible to him. You know what I'm saying? So it was a really bad experience for him. And my kid's mother, over the years, somehow started messing with ecstasy. And this kind of connects to what you asked and how people got into heroin and how it happened so fast because, the late 90s, in the Wisconsin area wasn't as fast as most other cities, like Minnesota and Chicago and stuff like that. New York, definitely. California, obviously. Texas. And so those people that I met, like I said, like his mother, she's now doing ecstasy. Well, some of it's cut with heroin, some of it's cut with cocaine, and so you have MDMA, which is the main drug within there, and then you cut it with whatever. Well, you give a person something that's got any parts of that, and they're already in the addictive nature, it can take over you because it's made for you to. It's an addictive drug. It's no different than the nicotine, but at like a higher level. So you're talking about just a little bit of something that you like. However much they cut it with cocaine, but your mom, for all you know, your mom could have been a dope. I'm like I said, I know them, so I'm not saying that I know for sure. But if you're born out of, as a drug baby, you were dependent of that drug coming out. They had to wean you off of that with a drug. I know I'm sure you've heard about that. When you hear about heroin addicts and at the high level, like, yeah, your baby comes out, your baby needs it. And at that point, they are getting a drug to get off that, whether it's like methadone or whatever they use, which is another form of it, the pharmaceutical, and it opens the door that quick. So, if you do have an addictive personality, and even if it's not in your family, like, you don't get like that, but addictive personality doesn't mean to drugs. It could be people that have addictive personalities with shopping. People like to shop. Some people are addicted to prescription pills. It could be anything. An addiction is an addiction. Right. So yeah, just chill out. I can see that, definitely. Yeah. Yep. It definitely is great. Yep. Well, I mean, we've been around the block too, I mean, those are kind of like regular drugs for the American world. If you're not smoking weed and doing coke, that's something that's just here everywhere. It's kind of and cigarettes, those are the main three: cigarettes, drugs, alcohol, and those, that's here, man. You're gonna find that, but yeah, and um, it was legal down here in Florida, and I ended up getting a medical card, and it's very expensive. Um, but it's also you're getting every time. Okay, so it's like how it is on the streets. That's all right. Oh, it's good. It's really good. That's all right. It's really good. There, it's like, hey, it's gonna be really good every. You get your money's worth every time. But they sell what you can get it legally. You're talking about of flour. Oh snap! That's like double. Well, I don't know. I haven't bought leaf. I, right. Okay. Uh huh. Really? Yeah. Yeah, I seen that coming. I seen that. Yeah. Of course. Of course. You know, there's a lot of practices now that they're using it for that type of stuff, and I've also been looking into it because one of my buddies, there's like a professional clinic down here that actually does that. They're like, yeah, and he invited me, and he kept on jumping around the word. I'm like, what are you guys doing in there? He didn't say it, and I was like, what are you guys doing? I'm like, you guys smoking weed in there or what? And he kept on jumping around what they were doing. There's like there's doctors involved, and people are funding it. I mean, I live in also, yeah, remember I live in Florida, so like people have money, they fund shit, dude. Like you start off, if you and a buddy's got money, you're gonna open up a business tomorrow, and most likely you're gonna get it done. So somehow they've got it to where these guys are literally it's a clinic, and I guess you're going in there, you're getting set up, you're talking about your stress, whatever you're going through, and then you're dosing with them. They're giving you it's controlled dosing, as far as I know. You know what I mean? Like, yeah, yeah, and that's weird. I don't find it weird because I understand natural aphrodisiac to your body. Um, it's no different than a cannabinoid. We react to them differently than actual chemicals. So um, eating a mushroom or eating raw CBD, something that's from the earth that actually I could definitely see it having long term better stuff. It's doing the um. So we didn't get to the Black Lives Matter, but we'll come back to that. We'll come back to the Black Lives Matter. So I moved to Florida. I don't know if I told you the record label I started back in Appleton. I started a record label um, that was supposed to help people get for people that were in poverty. So like I said, I grew up in Milwaukee, and I ended up getting in some trouble, spent some time in jail. And when I was in jail, I said, you know what, you guys will never go through this again. I'm going to make a place for us, and we can make money, have our own business. And I'm not going to be stuck in jail anymore. So I created Spotlight Entertainment. No, 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 no. This is me in jail. I was in jail. I was in there, and I actually my family was kind of all weird. No, I'm telling other mates this. I'm telling other mates in that city because everyone was rapping, and I got out and started the label, and I ended up, bringing guys in that, I actually took care of these guys. I was getting these guys food, clothes, anything you need. I made the label like that on purpose. So if you guys need to get your HSCD, I can tell you how to do that because I just had graduated. So I was like, yeah, I could take you in there, paperwork. I could tell you, I do all this stuff, and I'm like, yeah, and so we started the business, whatever. But over time, that failed. It failed, but that's where I met Mike Jones at. Mike Jones came to my show at Tom's Garage in Appleton, which is I was like 26. I was like 26 back then. Yeah, 26, 27. I think Mike's 2 years older than me. Yeah, yeah. Mike's like 2 or 3 years older than me. So Mike was like, he might have been just turning. What did he say? There's a flow. He said, "I'm trying to catch a meal by the age of 30." So yeah, he was 29 because he was like, "I'm trying to catch a meal by the age of 30. There's only 2 months left, so I got to snatch it in the hurry." I remember him saying that. That's when he first, yeah, that's when he first came to the label. He was just a monster. Yeah, yeah. Mike's always been dope. He was in a rock band before he was even a rap crew. So when I met him, he was with a rap crew called Midwest Entertainment with another gentleman named Coop. They came to our show from Sheboygan. They were driving down every Tuesday to Tom's Garage. And at that time, we were just coming out. We were growing in 2006. We had started, and Mike Jones and these guys show up with like embroidered shirts and stuff. Like, what? You guys got embroidered shirts? Like, so they showed up. You know, they had their own. Menace has always been the same Menace he is now. He's just way better. So they had their own logos. They had their own shirt. You know, they're all this stuff. And me and my crew were like, whoa. One thing led to another. We ended up drafting Menace onto the team. And Coop, they came and joined the Spotlight team. That's when I met Mike Jones. Following that, we ended up, Oh, I just that kid. He's the one that brought our clothing line to us. Yeah. That's Menace, bro. I've never seen him. A lot of rappers that we have. At one point in time, I had 13 rappers on my team. We had about 10 to 20 of our marketers, which are called Spotlight Ladies, which were girls that just walked around and promoted our flyers, our CDs. And then we had graphic designers. Menace wasn't even a graphic designer at that point. We were paying someone else. Mike was really like he was a rapper that knew about stuff and could do a little bit of it, but we had other people that were considered professionals, and we were doing all the stuff. I watched Mike grow into the guy he is today. When I started my business, you were told to duplicate. So I made Mike Jones, and Mike Jones became everything that I could do, but he was better at graphics, and I'm everything that he can do, but I'm better at the recording part and the sound quality and the business. So we were a perfect dynamic duo, you know. And the first show that we ended up getting, one of our biggest shows at Club Wet, that's when we hired Dave. Now, I don't know if you were in the conversation for Dave. He's in their thing with us, but I met both of those guys through my label. They're in there now. We're doing. Were you in there? I don't think you met Dave. Well, anyways, those guys came at the same. Yeah, those guys came within the same year with that show, with my crew back then. So when that failed, there. After, you know, thousands of dollars of me investing, I was the owner of it with my brother. And the people doing drugs, you know, he was one of those guys. He kind of ruined a lot for us. And I got to my ends with of it. I kind of got tired. It wasn't going anywhere. I put a lot of money into it. And once I got to the end, I moved back to Appleton and started working at Buffalo Wild Wings. And Buffalo Wild Wings allowed me to work there with my tattoos and my neck tattoo because I had already been outcasted for that. And So when I was working at Singular Wireless as marketing, as a business account manager, like stuff like that was frowned upon. And then I ended up getting a tattoo because I was just going to do this. And that didn't work. So I got the blessing of Buffalo Wild Wings. There, I had met Mike Hallmark, which is the other guy inside of the server with me, and a guy named Nick Ackley and his girlfriend at the time. And they were really serious. And me, Nick, and Mike were like three amigos. You know, we're the guys that are balling all day. We're hooping. We're throwing parties. You know, so he was the first one to get a girlfriend, and we're like, oh shoot! So our homeboy's got a girlfriend, and me and Mike are like, well, whatever. You know, me and Mike didn't care. We got done being in 4-1 relationships, and I think Mike was still just partying because he had lost his scholarship because Milwaukee had changed his scholarship there. He was a wrestler. He went to UW Milwaukee for wrestling and they changed his scholarship for co-ed. So that was the end of his career. He started following. What jam band did he follow? He started following a jam band. He started following like Humphreys McGee and some other guys like that. That was the end of his career doing that. So when I met him, he was just at party mode. I think Mike was like 20, and those other guys are around that age. And Nick was like, "Yeah, me and Carly are getting really close, you know." And you know, we did some talking. He's like, "I'm done with school, and like I'm gonna move to Florida with it, bro." And we're like, "Whoa, what are we gonna do?" And then you know, this is in the middle of the winter, January of 2014 or 15. I want to say it was 14. It was so cold in Wisconsin, bro. It was so cold. It was record cold that year.
Yep, it was so bad. That was a really rough year, and um, so we're in there freezing, and some things happened with his mother, which is really funny because he was taking care of his mom. She had eye surgery, and long story short, she was supposed to be giving a check to her landlord, and the check never got there. And me and Mike were already skeptical about these landlords, so we didn't trust them anyways. So when they said that we didn't pay the money, we're like, dude, we're not falling for that. Dude, like, come on, Mike's like my mom. And we went all the way through. We're getting evicted and stuff, and everything's going down. And literally, we end up finding out that they never did get the money, and that his mom found the check on like the death. Yeah, because you got to remember, so she had eye surgery, right? So like she had a patch on for the majority of the time. That's what Mike was taking care of her. And then after that, like her depth perception, everything was all off. So she just put that thing down somewhere, never seen it again. It all collided to where next thing you know, we're like, well, we're homeless now. We just got kicked. We're basically kicked out, and we were wrong because they were stealing our money. And now we have a fresh eviction on. And it's the middle of winter, and we're like, well, what else are we gonna do? And so I called Buffalo Wild Wings down here, because I was a trainer for Buffalo Wild Wings, a wing certified trainer. I'm like, yeah, we're interested in if you guys are hiring down there. They're like, well, I don't know about so what do you do? And I'm like, well, I'm a wing certified trainer here in Appleton, Wisconsin, for a corporate store. And they're like, oh yeah, absolutely, yeah, we can have you in whenever you get down here. I'm like, what? They're like, yeah, we really can't deny corporate trainers to any franchise store. It'd be silly, to say, yeah, we don't want you guys. You guys know how to train. You guys are the officials. Next thing you know, so my buddy already had it lined up. Me and Mike just got that lined up. We sold our stuff. I sold all my stuff. I sold my drum set, unfortunately, but it was to a young kid who deserved it. Sold all my stuff and packed up my Suburban and moved down here. Drove down in 2015 or so, and that was it. We never looked back. We moved to Northport. That's where they were living at. But what's that? It's the Gulf side. Yep, I'm on the Gulf side. So I'm literally about like a half hour or so from Tampa. That's right over there. Hurricanes, actually, it's pretty intense when you don't know what they are, because the storms here, tropical storms, are nothing like a freaking snowstorm back home. Like here, it's a mixture. And like it'll rain and flood and blow stuff down. And, what's that? Oh, okay. Oh, yeah, Savannah. Yeah. So, gets up there, yep. But so the last couple that hit here, was pretty intense experience. But after a while, it's no different than a tornado, and don't get it wrong, it can be bad depending on where you are, but when you live it dies once it gets on land. It's water. So a lot of hurricanes, when they start traveling on the land, they're going to die down. And Florida's really country. If you've ever looked at Florida, it's only really built up on the outskirts of it, meaning on the eastern side or the western side. In the middle is nothing but swamp and country. There's nothing else there. Yeah. So like if you get the further away you get from the coast, the better you are. It's gonna by the time you don't get it wrong, you might get some really high winds, which is like the tail of it. So you'll be like, yeah, the hurricane's way over there. So like you walk outside and get blown away type stuff. You know what I mean? You're outside like, oh shoot, what the heck is this? So yeah, the southern draw or the southern style it's right up my alley. Hey, that's right. The country folks, and I say country folks because southern country is different than like Wisconsin country.
Like it's not the same. Like southern and country aren't the same thing. Like down here, it's a southern thing. Everyone has a feel for love down here. Very hospitable, you know. Everyone's a little more laid back. First of all, it's too hot to be, you know, it's hot year round. So, you know, I was told over the years you mellow out because, you know you're not dealing with cold weather. Yeah. Oh my gosh, Milwaukee is fast moving, and you know, I mean, oh, it's basically it's weird. Let me elaborate. So the crime rate where I live at is slim to none. You don't really see it like that. You get the couple drunk drivers, and you'll get whatever, you know. But being that we're on the coast, we have Siesta Key, which is like the top 3 beaches in the world all the time. That's right around the corner. That's up the street from us here. So it's like you're living in a tourist area where there's tourists everywhere. Everything's made for the tourists, right? This economy is based off tourists. You know, you got Orlando Studio. So without them, there's no really money flowing through here. You know what I mean? Like that's what the bars, restaurants. So the crime on it is more or less when people come from out of town and they're just acting up. The most people here, don't get it wrong, there's people here too that do it, but like during like spring break, you're going to see more stuff. During like 4th of July, you're going to see more stuff. But when it's not in season, it's just a laid back place. The crime rate, what's that? No, that's it's a little more expensive here. Definitely more expensive. Definitely more expensive. Well, that's what it is here. That's what it is here. But it's also how can I say it? You know, $1,000 for a 2-bedroom, but it goes up. You know, you're gonna have a lot of different fees. You know, they got fees for everything here because it's really made for tourism. So they don't really care to rip your arm off. The people that live here really don't get that much respect being here. You know, live on. Yeah, so that's why it's expensive. So buying houses. Yeah, and that's the thing is like they come here, they freaking leave stuff on the beach, you know, and you know, they terrorize stuff, and it's like, yeah, thanks for coming, and then you guys litter, and this place is beautiful. That's one thing about Florida that I love compared to Milwaukee. And, oh no, you can see through it. No, you can see through it. Only the canals and stuff that the water leads off into goes into brackage. So, but when you're on the actual coast, that's all see through. You're gonna see through that. You're gonna like. Yeah, you're going to see through it. Okay. But is Savannah more on the eastern side, right? Okay. Yeah. See, everything on the eastern, I think, for here it's so shallow. You know, you can walk, you can jump out. There's so many sand. It's the Gulf. It's really not it's a completely different style of you should. Nice. Over there. Yeah. There's, dude, there's a lot. And so, the shows and stuff. Let me just say too. You mentioned that you had some surgeries, bro, and I couldn't imagine being in cold weather. I don't know how your bones feel. Like so when it gets cold here, it's an issue for me with my hips. Like I usually stay inside and start wearing sweatpants. I mean, it'll drop down to like it feels really cold here, but that's a big thing for healing, man. The sun here, super healing. Anywhere we get a lot more sun, and definitely warmer weather is a huge thing. You know, I'm always feeling. But as far as business out here, I mean, there's shows. So DJs and stuff like that down here, and entertainers they're hiring those left and right. You got to think there's always a show here. There's always someone coming into town. There's you can literally like all the parks down here, like they host big shows because of like the noise. Like so,
you can go to like a big park that's outside of Tampa where the noise, you can have noise until 1 o'clock. You know what I'm saying? And they'll just open that up, boom, go for it. Down south of here, they do shows there every, it's like Lost Lands and stuff, the diners and techno DJs and freaking all that stuff. That stuff is like, that stuff pops out all the time here because it never gets cold. So during summertime they're doing it here, and then during snowbird season, which is like December on through, everyone else is here as well. So definitely, if you're looking to be in an entertainment place, it's definitely a good place to be at. And I watch people. I mean, if you can have just a regular club, and not even a club. Like, there's not really clubs down here, but like our smaller places, our smaller venues that have DJ, those guys are clearing $500-$600 a night because of where we're at. Probably more than that. Probably more than that. I'd say $500-$600 on the low end. Like, those are just small places, but yeah. I would definitely come pay a visit down here. It's always growing here. That's where like I said, you would think that there wouldn't be enough beach. It would be saturated, and it's not. It's not saturated with anything. I'm like, you guys are getting money. Like, what's that? Yeah, definitely. Yeah, this is a really cool place. I love it. I've been here for 5 years. Met my wife here. She's born and raised here. She's a real Floridian. Right. Thanks, man. Thank you. Absolutely. She was born and raised here in Florida. Um, she's a true Floridian. And like I said, there's different people that are here. When you meet Floridians, they're usually more on the countryside. The true people that are here aren't city people, because this isn't a city, a beach, or it's a country. Like I said, you got Tampa, you got Miami, you got Jacksonville, you got Tallahassee, not Tallahassee. But still, those places are it's more country than it is the city. You know what I mean? So people that are from here, they're super relaxed, laid back, hospitable. Not a lot of drama. This is a place for drama. A lot of backstabbing going on. It's not the place for it. People here are trying to enjoy their day. They enjoy the area they live in. They enjoy be able to go for a walk and enjoy the park, enjoy beaches that are it's a clean place, not dirty, it's not litter everywhere. So and they take care of their stuff. So it's a very peaceful. I met her. It was she came in the spring. Yeah, yeah, other places. Right. So, okay. Yeah. Yep. Yep. We were running miles down here. We would run everywhere because there's a lot of bike trails and stuff like that here. It's made for what you want to do. When you go on vacation for people that are active. There's kayaking and all that stuff. There's trails everywhere. There's bike trails everywhere. Everyone has a bike. Everyone has a bike down here. It's a normal thing. So no, no, no. The no, no, you're not going to find any of that. The most thing that you're going to find that's dangerous is going to be some type of you know uh, insects are probably the most dangerous thing around. And that means that the insect that could actually bite you, like they got sweat bees, hornets, but everything else is going to run from you. And as far as like you would, not a lot of things grow here. Florida's very, very hot and it's sand. There's not good. So there's the only thing that can survive here is kind of like how it is there. Like it's got to be something tough. The ground, being that you're on an island, pretty much, the soil that comes out of there with the amount of heat isn't the best soil.